in our lesson today, we're going to be working on how to fill out our hamburger model for our essay. We are working on the essay on school uniforms. Now, in the previous lesson, you chose which side you wanted to be on. Either you were for school uniforms or you were against school uniforms. So you need to keep that in mind when you are filling out this hamburger model. So for an example, in my hamburger model that I'm going to be creating, I am going to be on the side of, let's say, for school uniforms. So the first thing I'm going to do is go to the introduction part, which is the top of the hamburger model. As you can see, it is shaped like a hamburger. So you need to think of the top and bottom as the beginning and the end. So I have an introduction at the beginning, and I'll have a conclusion at the end, which is the bottom bun. And then we have our reasons and our elaboration on the inside, which are the things that make our hamburger good. These are things such as the hamburger patty, the cheese, the lettuce, tomato, mayonnaise, pickles if you like those, onions. All these things comprise of the middle. Okay? So that's why we call it a hamburger model. So the first thing I'm going to do in my example is I'm going to add my topic. So I'm going to put, I am for school uniforms. Now we are not writing these items in here in complete sentences, short phrases to remind us of what we're going to write about. All right. And then I'm going to look back on my pros and cons sheet, and I'm going to decide what are my 3 reasons for why I think school uniforms are good. Well, I might say something like they show school spirit, they are less distracting or less distractions. And my last one is going to be less violence. Now, obviously, there's more to that, okay? But that's what I'm choosing to use. Once I have my topic and the 3 big reasons why I believe that school uniforms are good, the next thing I'm going to do is come to my hook section. Now, in the hook, it's the same thing as a lead, okay? There's a link in your lesson, and we're going to look at some things that we could use for leads. Remember, we always want them to be memorable. So you could tell a story. Maybe you went to a school that you had to wear school uniforms, so you have experience. Maybe you can tell a short, brief story about when you had to wear a uniform at school. Or maybe start with some facts that you learned when you were researching school uniforms. You could use one of those facts to begin. Another one is a myth blasting lead. All right. Maybe it's a myth that school uniforms are awful. Maybe you want to go against that and say, you may think that school uniforms are a bad idea, but in reality, they're actually a good thing. That's a myth blasting lead. Or question. Maybe choose a question to start off with, such as these examples. Do you like school uniforms? Do you believe in school uniforms? All right. So you can start with a question, or maybe even start with a quote. Maybe you found a good quote in your research that you wanted to use from someone who is famous that has something to do with this topic. Okay. Think about one of these, either a quote, a question, a myth blast, or fact, or even a story. And we're going to add that in here. Now, if you choose a story, you just want to put a summary of it, write it very quick. We don't have a lot of space in here. So my hook is actually going to be, I'm going to do a question. Maybe I'm going to put, Do you think school uniforms should be required in public schools? Now, anytime you need to go back and make our words smaller to fit, feel free. And then you can backspace it up. Okay? Get them in there the best you can. You can always make these boxes bigger as well. All right? So now I have my introduction complete. My second step, all right, we're going to start adding in the middle section. We're going to start with our reasons. I'm going to take my first reason from up here, show school spirit, and I'm going to type this in my box next to reason 1. Shows school spirit. Okay. Then I'm going to take my second one. There are less distractions, and I'm going to come down here. Less distractions. And then I'm going to look at my third reason, less violence. Remember, I'm just shortening everything to help us remember what we learned. Less violence. Now, at this point, we have our 3 reasons down. I want to now look at transitions. Each of these is going to be a different paragraph. So the yellow is one paragraph, and then my reason 1 in blue and the 3 green are going to be a second paragraph. This will be a third paragraph, reason 3 and elaboration 4th, and the conclusion is a 5th. So when we move in writing from one paragraph to the next, in our essay writing, we need to use transitional words, right? These help our essay flow. So you have a link in the assignment to different transitional words that you can use, okay? So when we look at some of these, we need to think, when is it appropriate? If I'm beginning and starting with my very first reason, of course I can use things like first or to begin with, all right? But it's not appropriate to use first or to begin with when we are working on our third reason, because we've already done a couple, right? So we need to keep that in mind as we're looking for transitional words. Now we have to use words that are going to make sense. I like to use in addition to, furthermore, to begin with, finally, in conclusion. Right? Those are the type of transitional words I like to use because they make sense in an essay. So I might start off with to begin with. Now be careful. Do not go first, second, third as your transitional words, because then you've just created a list. Okay? So my second transition for my paragraph for my second reason might be in addition to. And then my third transition, this is my third and final reason, so I might say finally or to conclude or in conclusion. That's a little off of the page, isn't it? It's hard to see. Might have to make that one a little bit smaller. That one's really hard to see. Maybe I need to pull this one up. That box just a little bit so you can see it. There we go. Let's make that to conclude. So you need to do your transitional words right now. The next step is you're going to go to each reason and give a little bit more elaboration on what I mean, show school spirit. These are going to be your details. Now, this is not going to tell you everything, but this is going to give you a guide of what you want to talk about in terms of your first reason. So under show school spirit, I might say, everyone will be wearing similar clothes. Okay, maybe I talk about polo shirts, khakis, and the second part I might talk about that the uniforms are usually based on school colors, because I know that the school colors, such as if your school colors are blue and gold, they usually have you wear like a blue shirt or a gold top. Okay. So I might say kids get to express their school spirit each day through always wearing school colors. Now, this is not all I'm going to say when I write my story, okay? But these are some things I can talk about. Obviously, when I write a paragraph, it's going to be more than 3 sentences, but I am just putting bits and pieces here to remind me things I want to talk about. When I come down to reason 2, less distractions. I might want to talk about how no one is comparing their clothes to someone else's. Everyone is wearing the same thing. So there is no teasing. You know how people tease each other about the clothes. And one of the distractions is, that students there will be less worries about fitting in with the value of name brands and big brands. Okay. And in reason 3, less violence. When I scroll down here, students will wear similar clothes. So argue over who dresses better. Less fights. And my third elaboration, I might talk about one of the statistics that I learned in my research, where they talked about schools with uniforms decreased their school violence by maybe, I don't remember what it was. I'll do 30%. Okay. So definitely use those statistics, those figures, those numbers that you saw when you were researching. And then in our conclusion, we're going to do 3 more things. So we're going to start with our transitional word. Remember, we've already given our 3 reasons. All right. So I need to find a way to bring it all together. So I've already used to conclude. So let's look at some transitional words I might use. To sum up is a good one. I like to sum up. So maybe I would go to sum up. Okay. Now, if you didn't use to conclude there, maybe you use the word furthermore. Furthermore is a great one. I love furthermore as a transitional word. All right. Then I could have used to conclude down here. So maybe if I want to do that and put furthermore here, then here I can use in my conclusion, I can say to sum up, or I can say in conclusion. I'm going to restate my topic. What is my topic? I'm not going to say I'm for school uniforms. No, you're going to restate it in a different way, such as school uniforms are great for students. Okay, so I'm going to make that a little bit bigger there. And my lasting thought, this is where you have to put a lot of thought, because this is the last thing you say that the reader is going to remember and it's going to stick in their brain, such as let's think of what we can say here, such as with all the violence and hatred in schools. It didn't take. Okay. With all the violence and hate in schools, school uniforms can do a lot to fix some of these problems. Remember, if anytime you need to, you can make a box bigger, make your print smaller. So on this one, I might go back and make my print smaller. Maybe even a little bit smaller there, so that I can see it all. And then we have filled out our hamburger model. This is a plan to help us keep organized for when we write our actual essay. This is not our essay. These are just giving us some ideas to help us construct our essay later. So now it's your turn to go and fill out your hamburger model.